giant ice sheet comes apart or breaks loose in Canada. Another shocking event and another sign of global warming, climate change, and polar frontier, say scientists. A huge chunk of ice shelf nearly the size of Manhattan has broken away from Ellesmere Island in Canada's northern Arctic, another dramatic indication of how warmer temperatures are changing the polar frontier, scientists have reported. Derek Mueller, an Arctic ice shelf specialist at Trent University in Ontario, has told the Associated Press that the 4,500-year-old Markham ice shelf separated in early August, and the 19-square-mile shelf is now adrift in the Arctic Ocean. That's a very, very big iceberg. The Markham ice shelf was a big surprise because it suddenly disappeared. We went under the clouds for a bit during our research, and when the weather cleared up, all of a sudden there was no more ice shelf. It was a shocking event that underscores the rapid pace of changes now taking place in the Arctic, said Mueller. He also said that two large sections of ice detached from the Searson ice shelf, shrinking that ice feature by at least 47 square miles, or 60%, and that the Ward Hunt ice shelf has also continued to break up, losing an additional 8 square miles. Mueller reported last month that 7 square miles of the 170 square mile and 130 feet thick Ward Hunt ice shelf had broken off. And on top of that, Greenland Glacier also threatened. So, this comes on the heels of unusual cracks in a northern Greenland glacier, rapid melting of a southern Greenland glacier, and a near-record loss for Arctic sea ice this summer, or it could soon be a new record. And earlier this year, a 160 square mile chunk of an Antarctic ice shelf disintegrated rapidly. Reduced sea ice conditions and unusually high air temperatures have backloaded the ice shelf losses this summer, said Luke Copeland, director of the Laboratory for Cryospheric Research at the University of Ottawa. And extensive new cracks across remaining parts of the largest remaining ice shelf, the Ward Hunt, mean that it will continue to disintegrate in the next coming few years. Formed by accumulating snow and freezing meltwater, ice shelves are large platforms of thick, ancient sea ice that float on the ocean's surface but are connected to land. Ellesmere Island was once entirely ringed by a single enormous ice shelf that broke up in the early 1900s. All that is left today are the 4 much smaller shelves that together cover little more than 299 square miles. Martin Jeffries of the U.S. National Science Foundation and University of Alaska Fairbanks has said in a statement that the summer's ice shelf loss is equivalent to over 3 times the area of Manhattan, totaling 82 square miles, losses that have reduced Arctic Ocean ice cover to its second biggest retreat since satellite measurements began 30 years ago. These changes are irreversible under the present climate and indicate that the environmental conditions that have kept these ice shelves in balance for thousands and thousands of years are no longer present. During the last century, when ice shelves would break off, thick sea ice would eventually reform in their place. But no, Not no more. Something's changed. Something's different. A scary scenario, but today, warmer temperatures and a rapidly changing climate means there's no hope for regrowth. A very scary scenario indeed. The loss of these ice shelves also means that rare ecosystems that depend on them are on the brink of extinction, said Warwick Vincent, director of Laval University's Center for Northern Studies and a researcher in the program Arctic Net. The Markham ice shelf had half the biomass for the entire Canadian Arctic ice shelf ecosystem as a habitat for cold-tolerant forms of microbes. Algae that sit on top of the ice shelf and photosynthesis like plants would. Now that it's disappeared, we're looking at ecosystems on the verge of extinction. Along with decimating ecosystems, drifting ice shelves and warmer temperatures that will cause further melting ice pose a new hazard, or a hazard to populated shipping lanes in the Arctic region, a phenomenon that Canada's Prime Minister, seems to welcome because they can make some money on new shipping lanes or routes. Well, yes, I guess they could. Anyway, and this story is connected to why the hurricanes are acting the way they are. Why there's more hurricanes than ever. Why they're acting weird and strange. It's all connected somehow with the climate change, global warming. Well, actually, it's more than that. It could possibly be connected with the magnetic polar shift in some kind of way. Tropical Storm Hannah charged toward the Carolinas on Friday, threatening to deliver gusty winds and heavy rain up the eastern seaboard, while authorities in the Florida Keys ordered the beginning of evacuations there ahead of Hurricane Ike. The 1-2 storm punch threat had states along the Atlantic on edge. They don't really know what to do. Should they evacuate or should they stay? That's a story unto itself. The U.S. Census Bureau has calculated that more than 40 million people in 192 counties along the eastern seaboard could feel the effects of Hannah. A tropical storm warning was in effect from Georgia to New Jersey, perhaps even beyond Maine, and a hurricane watch was in effect for parts of the Carolinas. And, supposedly, theoretically, some forecasters say that the storm will continue, heading up toward Iceland or Greenland, or it's coming back in a full circle. They don't really know, do they? No. This is not normal weather, not normal hurricane behavior in any way, shape, or form. Hurricane Ike was days from any landfall in the United States, sometime next week, but it has the potential to pound or pummel the Florida Keys, and once again, here we go again, the oil-producing Gulf of Mexico. Yes, and there's more hurricanes, supposedly, after that. Well, the crazy weather is connected with the ice melting in the Arctic and the Antarctica and the cracks in the glaciers in Greenland. It's all connected. There's something going on in the atmosphere. Well, also this year, there's been more earthquakes so far this year than any previous time anybody can remember. Even though they're not all of them have gotten in the news, well, there's something going on underneath the earth too, as well as in the atmosphere. It's about electromagnetic waves and the magnetic poles. Yes. Anyway, these are more signs in the end times, and there are many.